Hi everyone, welcome to Day D, Solving Quadratics. Today we're going to be solving with quadratic formula. So we use the quadratic formula when we can't factor using GCF, dots, AM method for trinomials, and factor by grouping. So let's take a look. In order to use the quadratic formula, we have to set the equation equal to 0. We're going to identify A, B, and C, substitute into the formula x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and simplify. So let's take a look at the first question. So let's look at example 1. What are the roots of the equation x squared plus 4x minus 16 equals 0? Now notice in purple I wrote ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. That's the general form of a quadratic equation, and that is how we're going to find our a, b, and c values in order to input that into our quadratic formula. So a is going to be my coefficient in front of the x squared, which is a 1. B is the coefficient in front, which is a positive 4. And c is a negative 16. I'm going to take the sign with it. Next, I'm going to write out my formula. And I write it to a song. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I have a beautiful voice. Okay, so let's substitute our values in. So x is going to be equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Now, we're going to use our calculator and just put what's inside my square root in my calculator. So x is going to be equal to negative 4 plus or minus, putting 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 16 into my calculator. I'm going to get radical 80 all over 2. I want to simplify radical 80. What's the largest perfect square to go into 80? That would be radical 16 times radical 5 all over 2. We can simplify radical 16 into 4. X is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 4 radical 5 over 2. Now, we can't leave it like that because that is not in the most simplified form. So notice I have negative 4, 4, and 2. I'm going to divide those by 2. So 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into negative 4, negative 2 times. 2 goes into 4, 2 times. So I'm left with x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 2 radical 5. And that's my answer. So let's scroll back up and look, and that is choice 2. Why don't you take a look at number 2 and pause the video. Notice for number 2, it says solve the following equation, express your answer in simplest radical form. Anytime you see this key phrase, simplest radical form, it's telling you to use the quadratic formula. Now, if you notice here, this isn't equal to 0, so I'm unable to use the quadratic formula the way it is there. But I want to get everything to the left-hand side and equal it to 0 on the right. So I add over the x, subtract the 8. So get x squared plus x minus 8 is equal to 0. Remember, this is in general form of a quadratic equation. Now I look at the coefficients. So a is going to be 1, b is going to be positive 1 as well, and c is negative 8. I then substitute those three values into the quadratic formula, and I'm left with x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus radical 33 divided by 2. I cannot simplify radical 33, so it stays. Take a look at question 3 and pause the video. Let's look at the solution for number 3. Solve 3x squared minus 6x is equal to 5. Again, it's not equal to on the right-hand side, it's not equal to 0, so I have to subtract 5. 3x squared minus 6x minus 5 is equal to 0. I'm then able to identify my a, b, and c values. A is 3, B is -6, and C is -5. I substitute those three values into my quadratic formula. Just be careful if I have a -6, that turns into a +6. Remember just to put what's underneath the radical in the calculator. I get radical 96. What's the largest perfect square to go into 96? That would be radical 16, which turns into 4. And then what number goes into 6, 6, and 4? I can divide each of those by 2. So 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. So my solution is x is equal to 3 plus or minus 2 radical 6 over 3. Or I can rewrite it because 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 plus or minus 2 radical 6 over 3. I hope that was helpful. Feel free to rewind the video and pause it for additional help. Now log on to Teams for your second assignment. Thank you. Have a great day.